What's up, everyone, and welcome to Be Sacred Space, your place for endless growth and possibilities. I am the beautiful and amazing and awesome creator. My name is Bianca, but you can call me B, and I'm here to help you master yourself and your experience. So if that's something you can vibe with, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It would greatly help this channel grow and get to the right people, and I would really appreciate your support. Let's get straight to the video. Today we're going to talk about how we can identify our emotional triggers so that we can use them as guide for healing, growth, internal validation, and right action. Becoming aware of our emotional triggers is a process which involves recognizing internal and emotional cues that lead to emotional reactions. Being able to identify our emotional triggers is a skill that is necessary in our lives. It requires us to be courageous and honest with ourselves so that we can face our pain points and traumas. Every emotional trigger serves as a catalyst for growth, healing, and truth. Now, not all emotional triggers are the same. Some triggers are justified and some triggers cause us to actions, while other triggers can be misdirected. By taking the time to observe our triggers, we can determine what is causing the triggers and navigate the situation accordingly. Now, I will go over some simple ways to identify our emotional triggers, and then I'll kind of show you how I go about it within my own life. The best way to become aware of our triggers is to practice self-reflection, which is the process of taking time with ourselves to examine our inner world. Now, you can use journaling as a way to self-reflect and to identify your emotional triggers, which I do recommend journaling as it helps you get out of your mind and into the present, as well as helps isolate the situation from everything else that you got going on in your head. And if you are having a hard time identifying your triggers, or you would just like some assistance, you can always ask a trusted friend or a family member, or you can seek professional help. So for me, this is how I have learned to identify my emotional triggers. First, I start with getting comfortable with being with myself with limited to no distraction, which I found for myself was very uncomfortable just sitting with myself. But after making daily meditation a habit, it started to feel less awkward. And being with myself with little to no distractions provided me the space to really get to know myself. Now, during my time with myself, my thoughts would surface, and at first I would try to keep a clear mind, but I realized that was not the way to go. So I started allowing my thoughts to come up without forcing them away, and I started to become more aware of my thoughts, taking note of the thoughts that came up and which thoughts kept repeating. Then I started to pay attention to the emotions that came up with my thoughts as well. Now, this wasn't something I achieved in one sitting. This took time for me to develop along my journey. The thing is, I made self-reflection and solitude a regular practice for me, and this opened me up to parts of myself that I wasn't allowing myself to explore before. Just by doing this practice, my self-awareness expanded hugely. I started to become more aware of myself and my triggers naturally. And when you take the time to become self-aware and to allow yourself to just be with yourself and observe yourself completely, you too will develop self-awareness, and it'll get easier to identify your triggers. So, now to apply self-reflection in real life situation. Now, I personally do not recommend just going out and looking for your triggers. Instead, I suggest that you learn to identify your triggers as they arrive. And the more you do this, the easier it'll be to spot the different triggers, no matter how subtle that they are. Now, the situation that I'm going to give you is a situation I dealt with my son's father not too long ago. Now, our conflict was resolved on the spot because we were able to talk about it and clear it up after the misunderstanding. But the example that I will be giving shortly will be delivered as if we weren't able to resolve the issue right away, and how I would go about the situation to understand what transpired, to understand my emotional triggers, and to process the circumstances, and how I would use what I learned to make things right. You get the point. The thing is, I'll write down however I saw the situation unfold and express whatever frustration that I have at the time, even if it's me calling my child's father an idiot, which he's not an idiot, but sometimes when I'm venting, he is. And then I allow myself to feel whatever emotions that come up, rather that's frustration, anger, sadness. I may cry, scream, cuss him out to myself, feel the fear and the worry. This helps me process the emotions that I have associated with the experience, and it allows me to validate my feelings without denying them, regardless of the situation. I also feel like after I allow myself to feel the emotions, I am able to think a bit clearer. Now, if this is all I can do at the time, I will allow myself to just drop the situation as best as I can and return to it when I can. If I do have time to continue, I will ask myself what exactly made me feel so triggered. I'll go through the event again and I'll review what was said between both parties and the different reactions that occurred during the situation. I'll also ask myself some questions and I'll try my best to be honest with my answers. Some of the questions I may ask myself would be, did I overreact at all? Which for me can be a normal thing. Did I let my personal feelings get in the way of communicating clearly? Why did I feel so charged about what he said? But I mean, you can really ask yourself any question that will help you understand the situation more clearly. I'll try to pinpoint exactly where I was triggered. As I reflect, I realized as soon as he brought up the breastfeeding comment, I became defensive. I also realized that my response to him caused him to be triggered and become defensive as well. And from here, we began our miscommunication. And I was triggered because a part of me felt personally attacked. I felt like he was attacking my parenting style and calling me an unfit mother. Then, after I've pinpointed my pain points, I'll then do my best to try to see the situation from another perspective, which isn't always easy, especially when I'm in the thick of the emotions from the experience. But this is an important step for me because I am able to empathize and relate to my child's father so that I can better improve our co-parenting relationship. During my time trying to see the situation from a different vantage point, I realized that none of what I assumed was really implied. And because I became triggered, I didn't allow myself to see the situation for what it really was. I also realized that I have a lot of fear when it comes to co-parenting with my son's father. So it made me more on edge and defensive. I also realized that I had a part in the disagreement with my son's father. This whole process allows me to find my emotional triggers as well as the wounds I still carry around me that affect me in the relationships I have with others, which allows me the opportunity to address and to heal those wounds. Now that I've done this work of venting, processing, reflecting, and changing my perspective, I now take accountability for my actions and work on resolving the issues with my son's father and the issues I uncovered about myself. It is very important to be proactive with the information we reveal about ourselves. If we are not, we will not change anything and we will continue to be triggered and leave our wounds and issues unresolved. Now, let's say I'm having a hard time seeing anything else but my perspective. I am very fortunate that I have a very good friend who I know I can always go to, and they always do their best to be a devil's advocate to help me see from another perspective. Now, my friend can be a bit biased because, I am their friend, but they know that I expect them to be real and honest with me, which I'm very lucky to have this friend in my life. This friend has probably helped my son's father's case in more times than my son's father probably even knows. But what I'll do is I'll run through my version of the story. I'll vent and whatnot, because for me, I know I'm safe to do that without judgment. And then I'll ask for their honest opinion. Now, what I love about my friend is that the space is so validating. They don't tell me that I'm overreacting or that I am wrong. They give me the space to express myself and to receive feedback. And sometimes the feedback isn't always what I want to hear. But the point is that they help me realize where I was triggered and help me gain a different perspective. Now, you can do this with a trusted professional as well, because sometimes we just need some help on our journey. And there's nothing wrong with receiving that support from others, as long as they are trustworthy, have our best interest in mind, and want to help us improve ourselves in our journey. The point of this support is to give us a safe place to vent, process, reflect, and become aware. So utilize this opportunity if you need it and have it. I hope that example helped you. As I mentioned earlier, if you take the time to practice identifying your triggers, your ability will improve with time, and it'll become easier to recognize and become easier to process your experience and build emotional resilience. Now, here are some important tips to remember and practice when learning to identify your emotional triggers. 1. Identifying our emotional triggers and learning to process them is an important skill to have. 2. Don't be too hard on yourself. Have compassion for yourself and others. 3. Have healthy coping skills to help you regulate and process your emotions. 4. Practice mindfulness by becoming aware of both your internal and external experiences. Pay attention to how your body reacts, what thoughts you have, what thoughts and emotions keep coming up, and what are the beliefs that you hold on to. 5. Only address your triggers to the level that you're able to. So let's say something really shitty happens to you and it caused a lot of trauma. I do not recommend unpacking and trying to process this event on your own. Same goes for if you think that you're ready and able to handle your experience, and as you're going through it, you realize that it's too much for yourself. Listen to that. Don't try to push yourself harder than you need to. Work on what you can until you have the strength and resources and support to help you out. Self-awareness, healing, and personal growth is a journey, and it is waiting for you when you are ready. So don't feel that you need to force this process. Now, that is all for this video. I hope that this helped you out. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave your questions in the comment section. Until next time, guys, please give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.